I'm Steve Hirsch. I am the Chief Data Officer of the Intercontinental Exchange, which is now the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, which I'm sure many of you do know. Today I'm going to talk to you about empowering the data scientists through data discovery and provisioning. And I think Tom gave a great lead into what I'm going to talk about today, and that's that the old model doesn't work, right? So first, a little bit about where I work. Intercontinental Exchange is we're the leading network of regulated exchanges and clearinghouses for financials and commodities around the world. We operate 23 regulated exchanges, one of which is the New York Stock Exchange, and 5 clearinghouses, and we have about 10,000 products across all asset classes, which you can see listed there. Myself, I am the Chief Data Officer, so I'm responsible for all things data for all the exchanges. And for me, that's really about designing and developing and engineering all of the data platforms. My teams are responsible for all the data governance, data quality, all the analytic platforms, as well as all the data flow automation and data integration. So I've got my hands full. To give you an idea of the scale of our environment, is my good? Yeah. Scale of our environment, we've got well over 10 petabytes of data, and we have well over 2 petabytes of analytics space within our environment. So I'll get a little bit more into the differentiation there. So our business is probably no different than many other businesses who are dealing with the big data challenges of today. We're regulated, so we have years worth of data retention requirements. That makes things tricky because we have to keep massive amounts of data available for, in our case, anywhere from 7 to 10 years. So it's a challenging data environment. Disparate data sets. We have well over 100 data sets. Some of those data sets might have well over 100 tables in a relational model. We need to do complex analytics against those data sets, and we need to do them quickly, as one can imagine in the financial space. The old way placed a huge burden. If you did pre-3.0 data and integration, you're doing it the old way. It's very burdensome on the IT staff, the database administrators, the data architects, trying to do all that data plumbing. It's very difficult, and it didn't work as suggested for our business, and we figured this out in 2006. There's a proliferation of data sets across geographies, business areas, and technology platforms. So for us, our data has grown through merger, acquisition, and this ultimately complicates the data environments until you have time to standardize them and ingest new businesses, right? The price of dealing with big data is high. We all know about Hadoop, and Hadoop is wonderful, and Hadoop is the future, right? But until we all get there, and we only run that platform, there's the rest of the data environments, right? And they're very expensive to manage, and they're very expensive to scale at petabyte scale. So I'm just going to say the legacy model of data preparation doesn't meet the demands of today's data consumption model. And what I'm saying here is building enterprise data warehouses and then data marts off of that just doesn't cut it. It's too late in the process in order to get value from your data, right? And the example I've got here on the slide, which is, say, an ad hoc data request, it's all the steps that an IT department might go through on behalf of a data scientist or data analyst to get data to be available just to use it, right? It's too long. It's completely reversed. It's the data scientists who should be telling IT what should be in the data board, right? How do they get access to the data if they, it's not the right order. So again, early on we started recognizing that we needed to change our data platform model. And back in 2006, we embarked on this. And the first step was the move to a data lake. I actually prefer the term data reservoir because data flows in and data flows out. But that's basically what we used. it's not exactly a staging area, because staging implies that it's temporary. For us, it's really our data of record, right? All of the data in our enterprise, whether it's real-time streaming data or data at rest, historical archive data, it's all living inside of our data lake at the physical level. And our data lake, just from a technology perspective, is primarily Isilon and now HDFS. So in there is all of our data assets. And the second part of our new approach was building an application that sat on top of our data lake, and actually we have more than one data lake based on geographical needs, to give our data scientists a view into our environment that they could, and it could be based on business nomenclature. They would be able to access their data and be able to provision it into an analytics sandbox, right? So that they could do some data integration on the wire on the way into the sandbox. So we built a tool called Data Dispatch. And when we built the tool, we built it with 3 rules. All data will never live in one physical place. You may get there one day, but then you'll merge and then you won't be there. No single technology in an enterprise will be used to store data. We've proven that time and time again within our own company. Multiple tool sets will be used to analyze data. There's the SAS folks, there's the visualization folks, there's the BI folks, there's the SQL folks, there's the, it just goes on, right? The bigger your organization is, the more you've got. And standardizing is always the goal, but it's not always achievable at a single point in time. So we built a tool called Data Dispatch. And what we've got here is, in the upper right, we've got our data reservoir. This is where we've got all of our data sets. And they're all organized and categorized in the middle layer in that green metadata repository. So I'll give you an example. The New York Stock Exchange has 150 tables that make up the data of the NYSE for one day, one trading day. And we have 5,000 trading symbols on the exchange. So that's about 650,000 individual files, physical files that sit inside of HDFS that would need to be loaded into a relational model, say inside of a NetEase, for an analyst to do work on that data. That's no simple step for a data scientist to load 650,000 files. So what we've built is an orchestration engine and a GUI that sits on top of it that enables our data scientists to be able to say, I want this data set for this date range, I want to filter it by X, Y, and Z, and I want to do my work inside of NetEase or inside of SAS or inside of Hadoop, right? And the engine then takes all of that data from the data lake and puts it into a place where that analyst has access. And all that munging, all of that integration, all that plumbing is managed by our toolset Data Dispatch. And it allows us to move data from places like HDFS or Isilon, or even databases via JDBC or ODBC into analytics space. Now, what's unique about our approach is the users always want to have their data online all the time, right? That's why they want to have the whole history of all data in some queryable environment. Now, a data lake isn't necessarily queryable, although I believe shortly that will be the case. But what we've done is we've built this whole concept of a lease workflow. So in the data lake, you can, as an end user, say, I need this data in my sandbox for 4 weeks. And then the engine, not only did it automatically provision the data, but it will deprovision the data as well. So this creates a mechanism where users trust that their data will be available on a regular basis. And as you can see, that's the actual person who works for us. Very happy. So what's different, right? In the old model, pre a tool like this, you have IT doing all the steps. Where's the data? Raw data, destination schema, ETL processing, all of that. And with a tool like Data Dispatch, basically you have a data scientist making a single request, clicking on a link, and all of the data, I'll use the word magically, appears in their sandbox ready for query. So, you've got the metadata security, data discovery and search, workflow design tools, all for the end user. It's all about empowering the end user. I'm going to skip over these for time. So what did this do for us? It saved us a ton of money. Basically, we stopped scaling out our enterprise data warehouse. We turned it into an ad hoc data environment for analytics, and we built a data lake. And basically, our costs now go into scaling our data lake, not our analytics environment. So could a tool like Data Dispatch help your organization? If you want to empower your end users, if you have a complex data environment, if you want to reduce the time for data delivery, time to value, then I think the answer might be yes. Thank you for your time.
All right, that was very interesting. Thank you, Steve. All right, next up, we have somebody from Pinterest. He's going to talk about the company's $5 million valuation. No, I'm kidding. He's going to talk about